Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of my Gilding a Monogram Wreath series. The first 3 parts of this series are going to be about painting the elements for the wreath and cutting them out. So you'll see lots of that, and this video in particular is going to be about painting these peony flowers in watercolor and just basically watching me do that, and I'll give a few tips here and there. I've got out my Gansai Tambi watercolors in this pink and red color. Here they are. And I also do a purple set and also a yellow orange kind of set, which I didn't end up using the yellow orange too much in the wreath because it just didn't go with the cool colors. I really liked the red and the peach color and the pink or the purple together. So here I am using some spun sugar distress ink to stamp on the peony flower, and you can see the peony flower stamp there, and it's by Altenew. It's called Peony Bouquet, and I'm using that spun sugar distress ink and then painting in with the Gansai Tambi colors. And I've just been practicing. These are some Copic. I'm testing out colors for the wreath. This takes a lot of time. It's not the actual painting of the flowers and the elements. It's the figuring out the colors and testing them together, and which medium do I want to use. Do I want to use watercolor, pencil crayons, a mix, markers, distress inks, or stamping inks? But the problem is I want it to be light fast, like artist quality. So these are my Copic experiments, and the colors I used are these: RV55, RV66, RV63, and RV52. And then some grays, maybe a gray neutral number 2. Anyway, these ones look okay. These ones are experiments, but I don't think I'm going to do that. They just don't suit the look. I want a watercolor wreath. So, okay, so here is my test practice sheet for the Distress inks and Hero Arts inks. And you can pause the video and just look at the names. I have them written out there if you like the color combinations. And I'm just analyzing, what do I want these peonies to look like and which ones will go together. Do I want 2 red ones and a pink one, or 2 pinkish purpley ones and a light pink one, that kind of thing. So I'm just deciding, what I want, and that's why I made this color key. And I also made this color key because it's always good to have one of your inks and to see what color combinations go well in your flower making. So even though I start off with these stamping inks and trying to pick colors, that's really more for the base, I was thinking, and then I end up merging towards thinking about watercolor. This is the first stage, and I'm thinking of a base color kind of thing and trying to decide what my flowers are going to be like. And then I also did the same thing here for the green leaves, just looking for a base color. And then obviously I come in later, and you can watch in my other video in another part where I add some gold into the leaves, and I just play around in the leaves with the watercolor. So this key is just, I'm showing it to you because it's in the footage that I recorded, but I don't end up stamping all the flowers in the wreaths. I just end up stamping out these elements and then going in the second step with the watercolors and embellishing them and finishing them off and making them look really watercolory before I go to the third step, which is cutting them out of my scan and cut machine. Okay, so I'm taking my distress ink in spun sugar and I'm inking up this peony stamp. And the benefit of this is these distress inks just melt into your watercolor as you paint over it. So it's the perfect line base, and I like doing this just to save time. Instead of drawing out every flower, it just saves a lot of time. So I'm just stamping it here, and I'll get on to painting them very soon. And they're just the first, if you can see that palette, it's the first three 35, 34, and 36. And this yellow is number 40, I believe. And that's what I love about the Gansai Tambi. You can take these out. I love that I don't have to have the huge palette here. I really like that. And then this is the main one I've been using in this color, this pretty cool reddish pink, which is 36. It's like a fuchsia red. I just love it. And then these ones are more warm. They're kind of on the orangey side, where I brought a little in here. A little bit of the yellow. Got my water here and just a little tapping cloth to, you know, get some water off. And I think I'll put away my markers now. I'll just put them there for now. And then I've got my ceramic mixing thing, although I didn't really use it. What I did was just use traditional watercolor techniques. So what you do is, oh, and the other thing is I am using the cheapest. So you can paint along with me here. If you have this set and you can stamp that and you have a light pink ink, just a blush, very light, or you could even use antique linen or something very light, just a light gray even, something like that, and preferably that melts in. The Hero Arts don't really melt in, so or those kind, but the watercolor, I heard Altenew inks can be watercolored with a little bit too, so you could try that. If you have that stamp, and if you have a basic just red watercolor, any one will do, just a reddish pink and a yellow, those are pretty basic. You can follow along with me here. Grab a cheap brush and water and a palette and let's go. So I'm just take some water, and you just want to use clear water and wet one petal and stay in the lines, and that's it. And then I'm just gonna mix over here. You want a pretty strong, so I tap right in it, you want a pretty strong, and then I just tap it in there right where the shade is and just let it go. Okay, that's one technique, okay? And then later I can come in and make that a little more, oops, I just dropped water on there, and make it a little more pink. But that's one technique to get that just shading where it paints itself for you. So another technique is take a little pink paint, and I mixed a little yellow and, you know, I just grabbed a little, the different color, the yellow or the peachy. You want to keep it light on the outside of these. You want to keep that light. But still I'm taking color now. Okay, and it's still wet, and now I'm just going to take a little yellow and make it a bit yellow. And then again, I'm going to go in with the really dark and go just tap along the edge of where the shadow is. Sometimes I just tap in like that. And my favorite thing about watercolors are those organic shapes where it goes into the fibers of the paper. That's my favorite part, so I love to do that. So again, I'm going into, now I'm going, you don't want to go next to each other because that will bleed in, so I'm going to another leaf or petal here. And I'm just taking care to keep the definition of the petals, and I'm making it super wet. If you hear noises in the background, that is my Scotty puppy Sherlock. And he's biting on his ropes, so he likes to keep busy because he's a puppy. So I'm gonna go in with some, sometimes I just like to play, you know, I don't know what I want to do. I just, I want it pink on the end here. So that's gonna be my lightest. Then as I go in, I grab the real intense and I go real dark in here. See, and that's gonna fade out too. Watercolor fades out, so it might look bright, but you also might want to take it back a bit. So you just get some water in your brush, tap it off, and zoom it in like that, and you can take some out if you care to. And it can always, the thing about watercolors is if you don't like it, you can just paint over it and wiggle your brush on it, and it will change it after if you don't like the way it looks. Okay, let's go on to the next petal. I'm painting with basically blush, like very, very light pink. And then take some color and just dab it in there. And that's it. Oops, I keep splattering water on it. So I'm gonna do this outline petal here. And the cool thing about this is you don't have to, you can be sort of messy. It's so, I'm shading, right? But I'm not taking care to control everything. I'm literally just, I want it dark here and I want it light here. So if I want it dark down there, I just go take some color, and I got a hair on there. I take some color and I just literally put it in there. Just dot it. And so I want a little yellow in there. So I put a little, oops. Really messing it up. Okay. Next petal. I guess I'll go in here. And you'll notice sometimes I do clear water. You can do 2 at a time like this. And other times I do pink water. It depends on how, you know, how much of a highlight I want. Okay, so this is dry over here, pretty much. And it's pretty dark, so I think I want a pretty good highlight, although I want the scan and cut machine to see the edge. So I want it pink enough so that it sees that. I'm kind of leaving a bit of white because I can always go in and fix that, but I don't want it to bleed. Now I'm going to take super strong red and just let it bleed out here. I'm just going to leave that like that and see how far it goes. If it doesn't go far enough, I'll bring it out later. All right, the next petal. This one I want to be dark inside there. Oops. So I'm just gonna put a dark in there and then take clear water and just let it bleed out like that. I'm taking it back a bit if you see that. So I'm just getting the water out of my brush. All right. Now see, if you don't use the yellow, it tends to, or other colors, it tends to just look really flat and not boring, but there's not as much interest. So I'm gonna soften this line just by going like that. And that's how you shade in watercolors. I'm gonna go for a little yellow now. So I'm just gonna take, see that, a lot of yellow. Put a splotch in there, put a little yellow glaze. Oop. So I ruined my, just gonna take that off. And go back in with clear water. And take a little splotch of yellow in there. Put a little yellow in here now, put a little yellow in there. See, and the reason I'm doing that is to keep it cohesive. So now, do you see how that works? I put the yellow in so that it's cohesive through the whole thing. Now I'm just gonna put a little bit of pink in there and let those sort of merge. I think maybe I'll throw a little bit of this other color, whatever it is, in there. Oh yeah, see how pretty that is? Chuck a little in here too, and a little in here, and a little in here. I want that really dark in there. It's like a super shadow. And then you can bring out some flowery textures whenever you want, like that, like lines like that. And I can soften those after when they've dried. Okay, so the next one, I want that pretty dark in there because it's a shadow. Dark here, dark here. And then I kind of just go in here and do this and follow the lines. It doesn't have to be too particular, see? And that's it. And that takes care of the middle. And then when that's done, you just go over, take a teeny bit of water and go over it to get the pink in the middle. I know that might sound whatever, but I'll show you after. And now that I've got this dark on my brush, I'm just gonna bring out these, I'm gonna bring out a little structure so that I don't lose it. Like here in these leaves, right here. Because in watercolor, you can have the flowy look, but you want to pick out every once in a while, make sure you give some structure, and that will trick the eye into identifying it as a flower. Then pretend you have a marker here and just do like a Copic. Just like that. I want to bring a little darkness out here, and see now I'm getting into, because I've just been using the same, I'm at that sweet spot of it's just my brush is acting like a marker, and I'm going to use that to get some detail. Most of these are still too wet. I'm just drawing now. Okay, so that's good. Same thing with right here. I'm gonna lose that. I'm doing this now, but I know I'm gonna lose it because I'm gonna make that dark, but anyway. Let's take some want it to be pretty light up here. It's very easy to lose the definition once you start in with the colors, so you want to keep your lights. See how it's light and then dark and then light right beside that dark? You want to keep that, because before you know it, if you make every petal, you start overworking it, you'll lose your lights, because you want to keep that very light in here to show off this dark, and vice versa. You see what I'm saying? Okay, I think we're dry over here again, so I can bring some of this pink out. And this I can just bring out like that. See? And it just paints itself. I just love it. Okay, what else? And you want, here's, oops, I'm gonna shape my leaves here. Not leaves, petals. Did I say leaves? Okay, next one will be this one. Gonna wet it, and I think I really need to leave this light because this is gonna be dark, so I'm just gonna take a little in there, and that's it for now. I'm gonna do this one. Well, it's a lot of water. Right up into here. And then this is where it gets fun to put a little bit of yellow in there. I know I just did that quick, but that was an intuitive decision. So sometimes you can't explain things, it just happens. So hopefully you can see what's going on by just watching me. So this is all dark here. And if you need help with what's dark and what's light, you can look at the stamp for the suggested. Now I'm taking almost pure paint here for the suggested, you know, where it has the lines, the cross hatching. That's where the darks are, pretty much. Shadows, sorry. So I'm keeping a little bit of texture on there like that. Sometimes that will create interest and it makes it look organic, you know, because flowers have these little splotches. This is getting to be a little bit of a watermark kind of situation here, or bloom. So I'm just gonna mess that about. Okay, and what else? Let's go over here. I'm just putting down clear water. And this is pretty dark, so I'm going to keep it mid-tone here, and that's light, so the mid-tone. So mid-tone is I just grab some of this over in the palette, you know, and just start, give it some color. I'm going to leave this, I'm going to leave that white or light pink. Now to bring that out, I'm going to, this should be really dark in here. See, that's too close, it's melting in, but that's okay. And this again is really dark. I'm going to put even more dark on there. So watercolor is never really, I mean, it lightens up, so you may need to go over and darken up your darks again. And this keeps bleeding out on me. I don't know why. It keeps doing like a bloom. And we don't want this kind of bloom on our bloom. Not unless it's intentional. Not on our bloom. We want to control the bloom. Now I'm just taking some water, taking it off, and then scrubbing in and out like that to create a, like you see that? How it just creates, I just put a blob on here. You see how it creates shading? Okay, this is getting a little sketchy here. I think I painted too close to a wet spot. That's fine. I'm gonna go up here next. It's gonna take some color and just dry brush it in there because I don't know what I want to do yet. I want to keep this dark. This should be dark here. See, if you want to bring out a light, you put some dark next to it. That's light. This should be dark. And if you don't like the way that looks, I can come in and scrub it later after it's dried, or right now like this. Just like that. Sometimes you want to leave that structure because it, like I said, it gives it an organic look. And this is a little weird up here, so I'm just gonna take some out. Just like that. Now watch this. Just wet and then dried my brush, tapped it. I'm just gonna go just like that. And that created the pink in the middle. See that? It's so easy. This, I just want to mix a little more, or like blend. So I'm just gonna do that. And then I think we have what, one more petal here? Right here. Actually, I need a little bit more in here and a little yellow. Yeah, it's perfect. Okay, now I'm just gonna wet this. And take a little dark. I don't know what I did there, but I'm just gonna leave that for a little bit and see how it looks. Oops, I forgot this one little petal here. And that has to stay light, or a mid-tone, or light, I guess. So I'm gonna make very light pink and just do that. And then I'm gonna emphasize that by taking some pure red and doing that. And that's it. I'm just softening that up. You didn't have to because I like the texture look. Okay, I'm done. I have to stop. No one to stop. So that's it. That's how to do it, and I just want to go back in, just looking at it, and just make this a little pinker. That's it. That's all I want to do. Okay, here I've done the purple flower. That was a lot harder, and I think purples are harder to work with. I'm not sure why. I think it's the way that they're formulated, and they don't lift as easy, so it's very easy to get, they don't lift as easily, so it's very easy to get into trouble in too much darks. Now, for that reason, I think for this one that I paint in front of you, I'm gonna leave this one out. This is number 38. And this is very, very dark, and I think I'm just gonna leave that out, and I'm gonna use the Distress Seedless Preserves, which is more muted, which is better for nature elements because it's less bright and fake looking. And I'm gonna be using 139, again with 37, that's the same color as I used here, and I don't think I used this 36. So I'm just going to use mainly these two, and I like this because it's muted. I just really love this color for flowers and anything. I already have some of this in my palette. It's pretty dark, but it's easier to work with than this one. I'll show you what this one looks like. Oh, I just dropped on it. It's a very blue, vibrant purple. Let me get that up. Yeah, I don't know. It's just not, it's hard to lift. Maybe that's it. I just don't want to use it. This one's a little more violet purple with more red in it. And I'm gonna use lots of seedless preserves too. This is my light here. Oh, I got a bit of white in there. That's okay. Here's where I wiped the pigment ink, the white unicorn. It's going a little opaque. I don't really want that. I want the luminous colors of the... So I'm using pretty much the same technique as I just explained with the pink flower here. Using the purple, it's a little more difficult though because the Seedless Preserves ink is hard to move around, and it's staining, so it doesn't come up easily. So the purple is a little harder to work with, and it's also darker. It's not as light as the pink, so regardless of that, purple is still one of my favorites always to paint with. I recommend going with water first on this one. I was painting with purple, kind of like this, but it just seems to be easier to go clear first for some reason. Because things get dark very fast. I think that's what it is, and it's not easy to lift. Like I'm showing you the lifting procedure, and purple tends to stain the paper more. Some watercolor elements stain more and are easier to get up. Others are harder. Yeah, I don't like this purple. It's too blue. It looks fake or something. something in whatever the purple is made out of that just doesn't flow the way the others do. You see how it's creating these shapes? That's the harder to work with purple pigments. They drive me crazy. They're my favorite. And they're harder to work with. Maybe it's that seedless preserves. I don't know what's doing that. Although purple always seems to be its own beast. Sherlock. That was quite the Scotty burp. It's like never-ending hard edges everywhere. I know what that is. That's that seedless preserves right there, not lifting up. I love the color, but see how it's not lifting? I can't soften this edge here. that's annoying. Hard to lift up too. Okay, so now it's more cohesive. So I think I'm done with this one. Wow, it's a pain in the butt. All right, it's done. So there's the second one. And maybe I'll go on to try some yellow ones or peach ones now. Okay, it's time to do my oranges and yellows, and I basically just swatched a bunch of those out. You can pause it and take a look at those colors. So the problem with those inks are they are not light fast, and this is going to be fine art. So I decided to get out my Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolors and pick out some yellows and oranges from there to ensure that it is light fast. So I'm going to try this number 44, 33, 42, and 46. And some yellow probably. Okay, so I'm going to start with almost clear water, but a bit of yellow is fine. Drop in some of this. It's a little bright. I'm doing a little different right now. I'm painting in the shadows first. This is a little more controlled way. Maybe I'm doing this because I'm just started off painting. I'm not sure why I'm doing it this way. This is more muted, mustardy ochre color. So I'm sorry you can't see the colors at the top there. They're the Gansai Tambi. Every time I reach to the top of the screen, I'm mixing the Gansai Tambi in my palette, and then I just have the Hero Arts little squares daubed out there. So it's minimal, the distress ink and the non-light fast colors I'm using. I'm mostly using the Gansai Tambi paints. And the distress inks do not move. You see, they don't lift. I'm trying to lift that dark, and it's just not happening. Well, it looks okay, but it's a little too hot, meaning it's just too bright. I think I need to put a bit of purple in there, which is its opposite, to tone it down. Okay, I'm not crazy about that. So I'm glad I did the small one instead of the big one. Yeah, just not crazy about that at all. See, if I take these oranges, which are way too bright for nature somehow, take a little bit of this pink, reddish purple and mix that in. And that's a really, maybe that's a bit too much. That's a nice color there. Okay, so here for the yellow flower, I decided to speed up the footage a lot for sake of brevity of the video, and you can still see what I'm doing, but I'm approaching this from a little different perspective. I painted on the light yellow parts first to indicate where to keep my lights, and yellow is again another beast in its own. It's different to work with than purple or red. And I found it very difficult. Again, yellow flowers are not the easiest. I find red and pinks the easiest. It's very hard to get a natural looking yellow or orange. As you can see here, I'm struggling a bit with too hot of an orange. I mean, most flowers are not this hot and bright. So anyway, this one's hard for me, and I end up working it out and toning it down a bit with a little bit of purple. Then you have to watch out you don't get too dull. In the end, I didn't use the yellow flowers in the wreath anyway. I stuck with the peaches and purples and pinks, and the yellows just didn't seem to go. I think that it's because they were too orange. Anyway, but this is just a practice run anyway. That's why I'm painting so many flowers, so that in the end I can pick and choose which flowers I like best and design them together in that way. This one looks a bit better than this one. And I think it's because of those purple parts I put in, so I think I'll try to do that to this one. It can be too dry. Oh yeah, and if you didn't notice, I did a couple more pink buds, some purple buds. You can see them there. And I did some pinkish purple berries and some purple berries too. Okay, let's go. Okay, I've changed out. I'm trying to do a peach color, a light peach, not oranges like this. So I've mixed up some 31. This is from the Gansai Tambi. This fuchsia 36, 33, and I haven't put any of this 37 in yet, but that's nice and cool. So this will be really nice in there. It's like a very purplish violet red. Okay, so here I'm trying to mix peach, and I don't know why I have such a hard time mixing peach. Um, I guess it's just because it's a very light color, and you have to, as you stir the colors together, you have to look at the in-between where the white shines through, not the darkest color. So I'm mixing purple in, then I put some red into that, then it's too red, then I put some yellow into that, and then it's too orange, and then I put a little bit more purple into that, and then it's a little too cool again, and I keep going back and forth. And see, there's some more yellow because it was too pink, and now it's a little too orange. So I have to see, I'm looking at the colors in between and moving more to the cool side again. All right, let's go. Wow, too dark. My brush is too big. I gotta go back.